all been born at the forest place. Come join Greg and Richard right here on Talking Reds.
Hello and welcome to Talking Reds, a Nottingham Forest podcast, hosted by myself, Greg Oram, and that fellow Forest fanatic from across the Atlantic, Richard Spray.
Because we're going to turn it around and we're going to start winning again. We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level. We're going to win economically. We're going to win with the economy. We're going to win with military. We're going to win with healthcare for our veterans. We're going to win with every single facet. We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more. We're going to win so much.
Good morning, Richard Spray from Oklahoma. How are you doing, mate?
Good morning. Yeah, good. Yeah, waking me up with a little Trump. that's always gonna get things moving, I guess. Yeah, that's great job, buddy.
The theme this week, and certainly today, is winning. We've got to win tomorrow night, haven't we? And I think winning is crucial if we're going to succeed in our aim. And one of our aims, in fact, probably our biggest aim, has always been to give a voice to as many people from the Forest fan base as possible. And our special One With series is a great way for us to do just that. Now, our guest today is a huge Forest fan with a larger-than-life social media personality, well known across X for his blunt but humorous posts and random facts on life and the world. He's the man who will constantly remind you that all games are winnable. And we're delighted to welcome him to Talking Reds. So please sit back and enjoy the One With Premier Elliott.
Sometimes I give myself the creeps. Sometimes my mind plays tricks on me. It all keeps adding up. I think I'm cracking up. Am I just paranoid?
Elliot, how you doing, mate? Good to have you on Talking Reds. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for the Green Day response. In fact, I usually sing so much Green Day that now when I talk, my mouth goes up slightly like that because I usually just sing like Green Day all the time. So yeah, it's good to be on this wonderful podcast of yours, Greg and Richard.
My research paid off then for a bit of Green Day for your intro. I thought, what can we do? Hunting, and I found that you were at a Green Day concert. I thought, we'll have a bit of Green Day. That will fit in with Elliot's vibe. If you're watching along, thank you very much for being with us for this episode. Please let us know what you think in the comments. We'd love to give you shout outs where possible. And as always, I want to say welcome to those listening later on Apple or Spotify. We appreciate you joining us on Talking Reds. We would love it if you would like and subscribe. We are on X, we are on TikTok, we are on Facebook and Instagram. Please do like and subscribe here. Leave us a 5-star review if you've got the time. Okay, let's get straight into it. The One With episode is a great opportunity to have a chat with our special guest. But before we do that, firstly, Elliot, how's your mum?
Honestly, she's in absolute agony. Unfortunately, last Wednesday, outside our back door, we've got 2 very sort of steep steps. Unfortunately, she fell down them and broke her femur. So unfortunately, she's still in hospital. But can I just thank the Forest fan base first of all for all the get well soon messages. So yeah, it's just greatly appreciated. But yeah, currently not good. But hopefully she'll get well soon.
She will. We know she will. We're sending her our love and best wishes, of course, genuinely, because she's become a little bit of a mascot, hasn't she? She's a great Forest fan, I think, and a bit of a mascot for us. So we're sending all of our best wishes to your mum. Is it forgive me? Is it Maureen? Have I got that right? Your mum?
Janet.
Sorry, where we got Maureen from? Janet. There we go.
Right,
Janet.
Look like a Maureen, a Janet, or a Bridget. So
No, that's still Maureen. I could have got that. We'll come on to names later on. That's coming up later. But in the meantime, we ask everyone who joins us for their own Forest story, the who's, the whys, the wheres of how you became a Forest fan in the first place. So over to you, Elliot.
Well, how did I become a Forest fan in the first place?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sort of Nottingham born and bred, so it was just a case of everyone at school was supporting Forest, so I sort of jumped on the bandwagon back then. But I really got into them during the '94 season, and obviously, of course, the first division one where we had the likes of Pierre Van Hooijdonk and Kevin Campbell up front. That was one of my favorite seasons, and that's when I first started going. I will confess I did have a very, 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 very minor brief phase at Notts County because they were only doing £8 a season ticket. So I went along with them every now and again, but my heart was always Forest. I just basically lied to my friends, going, "Yeah, I'm a County fan, but always deep here, Forest fan."
I don't think there's anything wrong with that because I've always felt that yes, there is a bit of a rivalry, certainly within the city and within the vicinity of the both stadiums. But I think a lot of Nottingham people will have a bit of an affection for both clubs, or that's how it's always felt to me. I could be wrong. I'm going to get pelters now probably. But before I let Richard come in, I'm going to go to the comments because Tim was talking about the new news that's come out about Evangelos Marinakis, saying, how do you think that's going to change things? And for those that aren't aware, John Percy is reporting this morning that Evangelos Marinakis has paused involvement in Forest to comply with the UEFA multi-club ownership regulations. Rules don't allow Forest and Olympiacos to both compete in the Champions League. Of course, if Forest qualify, Olympiacos have qualified. We're being told that Marinakis remains fully committed. I did read the article. Mr. Marinakis has placed his shares into a blind trust. And what that basically means is this. A blind trust is effectively a nominee arrangement. The investor transfers all their market-sensitive investments to a third-party trustee to hold. It removes any responsibility for the assets from the individual. So, in effect, the co-owner, Socrates Kominakis, has returned to the board. So remember that Mr. Marinakis is our owner, but he's the majority owner. So there is another gentleman, and that is Socrates Kominakis. So it looks like he's leading the helm, and you'd have thought that Mr. Marinakis' son would probably maybe take more of an involvement. That remains to be seen. But this is something that we all saw coming. None of us should be surprised that we would have to have done this because it's been done previously. Man United's owners, Ineos, did the same with Nice when both were in the Champions League previously. Man City's owners did the same with Girona as well. So it's not unusual. It's just something that has to be done. So that's the Marinakis news there. What are your thoughts, Elliot, on Mr. Marinakis in general? I mean, he's done great things for our club, but he does come with a little bit of controversy. What are your thoughts on him?
Like the majority of the fan base, we absolutely love him. We're extremely grateful. Yeah, I mean, of course, there were a few teething problems at first with the constant changing of management, but the guy has been true to his word. He deserves legendary status at Nottingham Forest for the things he's done for us. About that article, I didn't actually see that beforehand, so I wasn't aware of the Olympiacos Forest being in the Champions League at the same time. So I don't really have much say on the matter there. So I don't really know the involvements. But the answer to your question is, yeah, we absolutely love him. I met his son once after the game, and he's the most nicest smelling, handsome man I've ever met in my life.
He kind of that kind of comes off the screen, even if you can't physically be next to him, right? He just seems like that kind of individual. That's brilliant. I love that. That's amazing. Yeah. So, a couple of things. So Wembley, you were at Wembley for the semifinal against Man City. So, what was that experience like for you, even with the loss? And then, in addition to that, so how central is Forest to you? Because I know you attend quite a few matches, right? I believe you're a season card holder. So kind of talk about, what your experience was like at Wembley, and then subsequently, just how Central Forest is for you in your life and what you do week in and week out.
Okay then. So no, I'm not a season card holder. I'm
You're not? Okay.
I'm a one of those pro home member.
Gotcha.
My brother is, and so is my friend Ellie. Shout out to her as well. Sorry, what was the question? So how Central Forest is to my life?
Yeah, and how your experience was at Wembley when you guys went there.
I just really just appreciated the day out. I wasn't really that bothered about the result. I still left the ground and just thought my life is still all right. And like on the plus side, we didn't lose any points in the Premier League. And Man City are having a bad season, but they're still ruthless in what they do. So I just went for a lovely day out. Really, I really wanted the team to win, but just unfortunately it wasn't to be. The first Forest experience at Wembley was absolutely brilliant. Like the playoff final, we were absolutely brilliant that day. And I also felt that at the game itself, I think the DJ got Mull of Kintyre badly wrong. It was kind of like quite down tempo, and they didn't turn it off in like the second bit of Mull of Kintyre. And as soon as Mull of Kintyre botches up, I just got a feeling, oh, this might not be our day. But it was a lovely day out all the same, and I got to meet loads of lovely new people.
Yeah, it was a good day, and you're right. The playoff final, Mull of Kintyre was spot on. It was as is at the City Ground, but yeah, on Sunday at the semi-final, Mull of Kintyre, it didn't cut out as it should do, and I know exactly what you mean, Elliot. It's almost like, okay, what's going to go wrong? It just didn't seem to want to go in the net for us with those hitting the bar and hitting the post moments. So thinking about Forest and the community, one big aspect that still hasn't been resolved yet is the stadium. And were we going to go to Towton? Should we go to Towton? Should we go to another site? Should we definitely stay at the City Ground? It's kind of gone around in circles a little bit. And it kind of felt like we were coming to a conclusion that we're staying at the City Ground and they were going to redevelop the stands as originally proposed. Tom Cartledge is gone because his company is no longer involved, and other really big level architect companies have come into play. But it has gone quiet. And I'm wondering, is Marinakis, again, I'm just posing the question earlier, is Marinakis perhaps now thinking again about the announcements from Villa, the announcement from Leeds, and the redevelopment there, thinking, hang on a minute, if we're going to do this, we're going to get left behind. Do you think there's a possibility that it's all gone quiet because the moving away element might be back in play?
I don't think so, because the City Ground is always raucous. It's like a sort of a special atmosphere. And also the likes of Bournemouth and Brentford have proven you can have, no matter what size of your stadium, like Bournemouth and Brentford are still horrific to a few Premier League teams, definitely including ourselves. But regarding like stadiums, etc., yeah, the main stand does need doing up. There's no doubt whatsoever about that. The only thing I would suggest to the club is build from the top up first, as in try and find a way to get an upper tier of the main stand first, and then perhaps potentially like change the lower tier, or eventually buy the houses behind the West Bridgford end and house all the season card holders into the upper Bridgford stand when that gets done. That's my only sort of suggestion that I can come up with. But the question I'd probably ask you guys as well as people in the comments is, would you accept a temporary one-season stadium like they do with the containers, like they did at in Qatar? Would you accept a stadium like that for just one season, just in like Towton, for example, but have the City Ground redeveloped? Would you guys probably accept that?
Go on, Rich.
Yeah, I would say yes, because I think there's just the mystique and the romanticism that accompanies that. Because of course, going to that stadium for the first time as a young boy with my granddad, it very much is firmly implanted in my mind. That's where Forest should be. I think Greg and I have talked a lot about that. I see the allure of, something a little bit more, I guess, for lack of better verbiage, fanciful and more sort of quote unquote like Tottenham like or those sort of Everton's new stadium. It makes sense in that sense because it feels like the optics are showing that you're a truly a Premier League side, and the sort of complex model that he has at Olympiacos makes sense as well. But just something beautiful and unique and ingrained in who we are as a fan base to have ourselves be watching matches at the City Ground. So I think one of the things that we talked about with Matt Druitt, who was an architect in Nottingham, I think he's now working for a firm in London, but he still lives in the area. He lives in West Bridgford. So he of course has such a respect and love for that stadium. So he's talked about if you could level it and basically restart, would you accept something like that temporary thing? I mean, for a year or two to get that to happen, or at least for a year to augment it and improve it and make it what it could be to even heighten that experience even more now that we feel firmly entrenched in the Premier League. Absolutely. I would totally do that because I think just where it's positioned and everything about it is so important to who we are as a club from a history standpoint and for the experience of younger, fans coming up. So yeah, definitely.
Well, look, I mean, I've seen the plans for Villa and the plans for Leeds, and they look exceptional. And I just have a sneaky suspicion that Mr. Marinakis is kind of flip-flopping a little bit between what he really wants to do. And I don't think that if we're serious about staying in the echelons of the Premier League, that a 40,000, 45,000 stadium is going to be enough for him. I just think that he now might be looking at other land. And again, this is just a hunch and this is no inside information, to possibly try and do a brand new stadium. I don't think it's viable that we'd get a container type stadium at Tottenham just for one season whilst they level. I just don't think it's viable. I think if we were to have to move away from the City Ground for any period of time whilst they level it and completely redevelop it, then the only place I can imagine that we go, and this is again not going to be a very good answer for people, is probably Notts County. And you have to suck it up for one season with 20,000 fans in the stadium. And you say, look, in the long run, you're going to be moving back to a City Ground that's 50, 55,000 or thereabouts. And you're going to have to just suck it up for a season. The only other viable option, which again is not a viable option at all, would be to go to Leicester. But that's going to go down like a wet balloon. Wet balloon? That's not even the right thing to say. You know what I mean? Or you go even further afield and you go Milton Keynes, which is even further afield. It's a big stadium. You can have more in there. So I just don't know. I mean, Matt Druitt has messaged us this morning. I'm not going to read it out because it's a really wordy, detailed kind of script of what he thinks might be happening. But the headlines are that Rushcliffe have now cancelled the 8th of May planning committee date. And that was supposed to be where we'd find out more information. He's speculating that there's more going on behind the scenes again, in terms of negotiating with planners. Obviously, the fact that we've got 3 councils involved has not made it easy. The freehold, he thinks, still hasn't been sold to the club. And so, his gut feeling is that, there's going to be an ongoing situation for longer than any of us have kind of garnered for. There's lots of rumours that, yes, they are going to be doing the redevelopment at the end of next season, but that, again, appears to be on hold. It's down to Mr. Marinakis' ambition. And I know that he's not the de facto owner now, but we know that he is really. He's going to be pulling the shots, albeit he's not on paper the owner. So we're going to have to just wait and see. I'd love nothing more than for us to remain at the City Ground. But hand on heart, I really think that levelling the City Ground and having a brand new City Ground in the footprint of what we've got, the right City Ground that has that, enigmatic soul and everything else we've currently got is crucial. So, it's not an easy thing to talk about. It's not an easy thing to get any decisions on. Bruce is with us in the comments, says good morning. He loved the Green Day from the off. And Mark, our £2 donation from you again We thank you. He says we need 6 points from the next 3 games. All these £2 donations are adding up because they're in the account, and we don't get anyone else giving us £2 donations. So, Mark, we are so very, very grateful. It's going to buy me and Richard a nice burger and chips when he comes over. It's all adding up to a nice meal out for the 2 of us, maybe 1 or 2 more. I'm just joking. All right. Danscape says, Elliot, when you were in the championship, were you championship Elliot and had to change your name when we got promoted?
No, I did read that Danscape, and I did actually find that funny. No, I was just called Elliot, but I was just looking for a new name while I was in the Premier League, and Premier Elliot just rolls off the tongue, so that's why I just thought I just call myself that. It's not really an official nickname. It's just something I like. Like
it is now. It is officially your nickname now.
It's not like Premier League Elliot. It's just Premier Elliot. It just rolls off.
Premier Elliot. We love it.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm going to have a chat with you about is that you were posting this week quite openly about something. You want to say something before that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I do have a little mini fact about nicknames, and then I promise we'll go back on track.
Go on.
Queen Elizabeth II's family nickname was Gary.
Gary?
What in the world?
Why is that?
It's basically because Prince William at the time couldn't pronounce Granny. He used to call her Gary, so it is. Sorry, let's get back on track.
Yes, you know what? I actually remember that. I think I've seen that myself previously. So yeah, no, fantastic, excellent. I was about to say you've been quite open this week about being sober for 7 years from alcohol, and I thought, it's quite brave when someone is open and on public saying, look, I'm telling you I'm sober. The assumption is that there was an issue there. If for you to have done that, I don't make assumptions. If you're happy to talk about it, then great. The reason why I bring it up is because there's lots of people listening and watching that might be having their own kind of battles going on. And you've been quite open, as I say, about talking about being in recovery, and being in recovery is tough. I've got other friends that have gone through that as well, and are going through that because it's an ongoing thing. It doesn't stop. I wondered really about that journey for you. What was the trigger point for you to say, enough is enough? I need to get myself sober. And I guess the other question is, how important a role has Forest played in your journey to sobriety?
Okay. I will do this, but first of all, it's quite if anyone's sensitive to this sort of information, I truly apologize. But yeah, it is something that was really, really bad for me. So why I've decided to stay also clean and sober. I was doing substances back in the day, but yeah, in 2017, I basically I have Asperger's syndrome as well, and just all sorts of like other issues with myself. But yeah, 2017, I just hit the self-destruct button hard. I was drinking very heavily. I was abusing substances. I lost my comedy career. I basically hit self-destruct really hard. I lost a lot of friends. I lost my career. My best friend, who I used to be really close to, now unfortunately hates me, and we were in like partnership together as comedy promoters. Well, not partnership. I was like a second in command. Yeah, in 2018, I was just out with some friends. I drank very heavily, and I was literally all over the place. And that really big hole outside Victoria Centre, I almost threw myself down it. That's how much I just wanted to like end it all, had enough. Unfortunately, 3 people came along and like sort of talked me out of it, and I just became aware at that moment that I've really got to I've really got to stop this. I've got to stop with the booze, stop abusing substances. And yeah, 2018 was incredibly difficult for me, but like I just got used to like non-alcoholic beer. My new favorite drink these days is like lime and soda water. So apologies to people if this is like really deep and sensitive, but I've not had a drink ever since. I usually just do like zero alcohol beer or zero alcohol cider. I'm off the substances And yeah, a lot of the Forest fans have really sort of helped me with that. I really like appreciate it. The only issue is like I do miss my comedy career, but I always feel like really scared to sort of come back into it. I do improv every now and again on Thursdays with the local improv group Miss Imp. So we put on shows every now and again. So that's my sort of oasis. But yeah, 2017, I just sort of lost the plot, and yeah, I've been clean ever since.
That's incredible, man. I speaking for myself, I have a father who still struggles with that stuff. Thankfully, the substances piece is gone, but the alcohol thing is still a mainstay, and it's been hugely impactful to everything that has happened.
Yeah.
And so I think we all would probably say it's incredible what you're doing, and the courage you show, because it is, as Greg pointed out, an incredibly difficult path, and it's not one that ends, right? It's a constant thing. How you kind of touched on it there. I know you've been involved with David, with Rads, been on his podcast quite a few times.
I recommend his vlogs very highly.
Yeah, they're fantastic. He's great. He's great. Yeah. Him and his dad. I love his little interviews with his dad for like lists and so forth and rankings and so forth. Yeah. So how important has that been, as I think you kind of touched on it a minute ago, to be connected to various aspects of the Forest community? Because I remember when I was there, you were one of the first people that I saw and got a chance to chat with, being over in the UK, and that was great. And I know you've been, you've chatted with him and become good friends with Chris and Matt from Forest All Over, which is excellent. So how important has that community been to you to kind of buoy you up, to strengthen your mental health, to help you have the strength to continue to move forward and be able to kind of resist the temptation of alcohol and other things? Because of course that stuff's ingrained in football culture, right? I mean, it's the same thing over here with sports. It's just a part of what happens, right? Whether it be American football tailgating or other things, so how important has that community been to kind of help strengthen you through the process?
It's been great. Another lot. I've got a shout out to my boys at Red Side of the Trent as well, because
100%.
that was like one of the first times I've ever been on like a Forest podcast, and I was just so nervous. But I've become really good friends with all four of them, and me, Alex, Danny Tring, etc. as well. Like, just for a laugh, we call ourselves the Red Side of the Trent subs bench, because we sometimes come on every now and again for their pods. So yeah, just the Forest community in general. Sort of, I've remade loads of like really good friends that we go to the nav beforehand. So so if ever I need help with them, yeah, they're just there for me, and I just always greatly appreciate them.
Amazing. And we've had our podcast for about a year now since Richard and I came together, and one thing we said from the very start was that if everybody can watch everything, we encourage them to do that, because not everyone's got the time to do that. But Red Side and Forest All Over and Forest Focus and FFTV as well, I know they get a lot of hate, but we love Wolfie because he's been brilliant with us. It's something there for everybody, and we want people to come on and like you are today and be on as well. We've got a bit of a queue building up. And so we're grateful for that interaction and that community feel. Just kind of before we leave this topic, you had the moment of clarity where you were staring down a barrel, literally on the floor, and thinking I might jump, and you kind of woke yourself up, which was so brave and commendable. But what would you say to anyone else who might be listening or watching who's struggling with alcohol and or substance abuse? What kind of help is there, and what kind of advice might you give them?
It's a very difficult question, that, because I don't know how bad their sort of alcoholism and like substance abuse.
Let's just say someone's struggling.
Yeah, it's always just so incredibly difficult to get off it. So just like the white powder, as you probably know what I'm talking about. It made me confident, but not a good confident. I just really wasn't a good person, even though I just tried to be as nice to everybody I meet. Like, and I didn't like myself while I was on that stuff. So I basically sort of tell myself, like, if I do get those sort of cravings and urges and stuff, what I would just recommend is just say to yourself, I love you, and I know it's gonna like feel good, like doing that, but I can't let you do that because you know the side effects, the cons outweigh the pros. So obviously, of course, there's miles worth of help. I've sort of like self-taught myself to get off it. I've not really gone to like Alcoholics Anonymous or anything because I wasn't really an alcoholic. I just wasn't very good on alcohol. So it's a very difficult question, but what I just recommend is think about the pros and cons of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Brandon is referencing the Marinakis news. Yeah, we have touched on the Marinakis news, Brandon. We appreciate you jumping in and letting us know that it's come up on Sky Sports that Mr. Marinakis removed himself from control of the club. And when, as I say, we've gone through that a little bit earlier. Elliot, you're a legend. We are thrilled you're with us. And like everybody who comes on to Talking Reds, you have put together your all-time Nottingham Forest 11. Here it is on the screen. I'm going to read it out, and then you can tell us about one or two of them and why they've made it into your team. You've gone for Kaylan Navas in goal, which is the first time I think that's happened, which is great. Everyone has their own opinion. Back four of Stuart Pearce, Murillo Milenkovic and Ola Aina. A midfield two of Roy Keane and Elliot Anderson. And then a front four, John Robertson on the left, Brennan Johnson on the right, Morgan Gibbs-White in the 10 behind Stanley Victor Collymore. Okay, I have to ask you about Navas. I mean, he came to us off the back of being a Real Madrid goalkeeper with 3 Champions Leagues. My own opinion is I always thought he was a good goalkeeper, but he wasn't as all that as perhaps, people were kind of bidding him up for. But I thought he did quite well for us when he was at Forest. Why did he make your team?
He made my team just because in his prime, he was the most world-class goalkeeper possible. I almost went for for Peter Shilton, but Peter Shilton has admitted that in the modern game, he'd find it really difficult to play the ball with his feet. So that's why I went for Keylor Navas, just because he is that sort of world-class goalkeeper that has officially played for us.
Yeah.
So that's the main reason I've gone for that. I would have gone for Matt Sells on the bench because I love that guy so much. His consistency, he's really good with his feet, and considering the fact we had 2 walking points deductions in goal last season, he came in and assaulted it. But yeah, the reason I've gone for Keylor Navas is because he's Keylor Navas. He was absolutely He was absolutely fantastic for Real Madrid and PSG, and he did play for us. So that's why I went for him. And also bear in mind his performance at Leeds United when we beat them 1-0 was exceptional.
Yeah, it was. You're absolutely right. A few names from the current squad are in there, and I can completely understand why. The midfield's always an area that's quite tricky because we've had a lot of good midfielders over the years, but you did plump for Roy Keane, the Irishman. Tell us about that.
I just feel like with him being box to box and controlling the team, I'd actually make him captain for this team as well. You've got basically a really good spine here of Milenkovic, Keane, Gibbs-White and Collymore. So you've got that spine. Keane has always been one of those that will talk to everyone and encourage them to perform, not just at 100%, but 110%. If you're slacking, he will let you know. So that's why I've gone for Roy Keane there.
Excellent. And then one more that we'll ask you about. Brennan Johnson, our original star boy, makes it into your 11.
Yes.
Go on.
Obviously, because we've had record money for him. I do like Anthony Elanga a lot, but Brennan is just very good with adding goals to his game. And yeah, his pace along with John Robertson, I think would have been extraordinary for Stan Collymore.
I can't argue with that. I'm a big fan of Brennan. We got, as you say, we got a good fee off him, came through the academy, was instrumental in getting us promoted, and even more instrumental in keeping us in the Premier League in that first season. Alrighty, let's take a very quick break.
The Cheese Trader, based on Grape Lane in York, is a cheese lover's paradise. Home to some wonderful specialty cheeses, relishes and chutneys, and also with a fantastic street food menu. Try their loaded fries or posh cheese on toast. It'll be the best you've ever had. Owned by Forest fan Stu Freestone, the Cheese Trader proudly sponsors Talking Reds. Quote Talking Reds every time to get 10% off your order. The Cheese Trader and Talking Reds, the perfect cheesy mix.
Forest fan Stu Freestone, based in York with his business, The Cheese Trader. All the information is in the bio to this episode as usual. Okay, then, let's do this.
The lightning round!
All right. Yes, the lightning round. You're probably familiar with Elliot, but I think you wanted to say something before we get into this real quick.
I just put your finger up. A cheese fact regarding Japanese Kit Kats, and they're all sorts of weird flavors. Apparently, the worst Japanese Kit Kat flavor is European cheese.
Oh my gosh!
And I don't even know what European cheese is, but yeah, that was voted the worst.
Oh,
do they actually cover it in chocolate?
I've never had it, so
we don't know.
But I'm curious now. I got to figure out what in the world they're doing with that.
On the hunt now for some Japanese Kit Kat cheese flavor.
No doubt.
Okay. European cheese.
Amazing. All right, buddy. So we'll just run through these quickly. Favorite Forest player of all time?
Murillo.
Wow, nice. Excellent.
My mouth was dropped open so many times with all those clearances. Like I literally just pay my money now just to watch Murillo.
And it's amazing how all of us are just clamoring for that one rifle left foot shot outside the box to go in, right? At least before he exits his time in a Garibaldi red, right? We have to see that at least once. What was your first Forest match? Oh, go ahead.
One moment that never was, and it would just have been an absolute dream if it happened. When Chris Wood scored against Liverpool, a few minutes later, Murillo had a pot shot which just went wide just a little bit. Now imagine if that goal went in and we went 2-0 up over Liverpool. That would have been absolutely insane. So sadly, it was a moment that never was.
Yeah, he's already a legend, right? That would just taken it to like a stratospheric level. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What was your first Forest match live?
First Forest match live was against Doncaster in the first promotion season in 1997. It was basically the Evening Post were giving, I'm going to sound very Derby County here, but free tickets to kids. And so my mum paid a tenner, and then she got a few free tickets with like a token in the Evening Post. So we beat Doncaster 8-0 in the first League Cup ones, and the second one we beat Doncaster 2-1. So that was my first ever performance at the City Ground.
Amazing.
First ever league game was a 4-0 win against Middlesbrough, and at the time we were gunning for promotion.
Fantastic. What player in Forest history would you like to see on the current squad?
Well, I've already put that in my squad. But obviously, John Robertson, like the guy was absolutely outstanding with his feet.
Yeah, he's unique, right?
Yeah.
I mean, his body type wouldn't look like what you're used to today, but that's all right because everything else was there. That's brilliant. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I've gone back and watched highlights. Like I think Greg has talked about that was a little bit sort of right at the beginning, or the latter part of that is the beginning of his era, and he can remember a little bit of that. Me, it was a little bit before my era, but not by much. But that's excellent. Yeah. Your favorite away or third kit? Are you wearing it? Is that your favorite one that you're wearing?
No. Although this fits me very snug considering I've got a big flabby belly at the moment. My favorite away kit is our current second pink and black kit. I'm a huge fan of like hot pink. I'm a big WWE Bret Hart fan as well. So like
classic.
I just love that one. So yeah, I'd probably pick that one.
Fantastic. All right. What about your favorite Forest moment or memory?
I got a Burnley fan kicked out of the ground once.
Oh boy.
In 2003 when we beat them 2-0, I think it was 2 goals from David Johnson. I was sitting lower Brian Clough stand right near the away fans. There was this guy in the mustache that was trying to like give us banter all game, and when he went 2-0 up, for some reason he took his belt off and just went like that to me and got thrown out the ground.
Excellent. As he should.
But another favorite Forest memory of mine will probably have to be like the final whistle of our of Wembley, like when all the relief was there. My brother started crying, which was really weird because he was actually one of those that jumped on the Steve Cooper bandwagon, and I just turned to him and like, "You've only just been supporting him for like 6 months." But yeah, now my brother really loves it as well. So yeah, that's another good moment of mine.
Excellent. If you weren't a Forest fan, what club would you support?
Next question.
Perfect. Apart from Cloughie or Cooper, who is your favorite Forest manager?
We're currently all on the, well, not me, but all on with Nuno. So it's 100% him. Like the first game that we had was against Bournemouth, and that was obviously, of course, I'm still seething about the Willy Bolly red, because Bournemouth are that team that always has lady luck on their side when they play us. They always seem to be in really unfortunate circumstances. But then Christmas happened with the Newcastle and Manchester United game, and you can just tell from like his style of play that we just turned into a really professional Premier League football club. And that's why I just love him, really. Yeah, of course we have a few teething problems, but all managers had. Look at Alex Ferguson, when everyone wanted him gone, and then he played us, and then he's like the second coming of Jesus in Manchester. So yeah, it's gonna have to be Nuno for that one.
Excellent. If Forest could sign one player from a non-top 6 side, who would it be? So your Wolves, your Villas, so on and so forth. I mean, Villas kind of become sort of a top 6 side at this point, but yeah, Bournemouth.
Can I go European as well, or does it have to be Premier League?
Sure, why not?
Paulina. Bayern Munich.
The former Fulham midfielder.
I still feel we need a midfield general to complete the team. I
agree.
love Ryan Yates, don't get me wrong, he's fantastic, but there are certain games where his dark arts are ineffective and it doesn't work for him. So I still think like Elliot Anderson has nailed on his midfield role. We just need somebody else to get a midfield role as well. And I feel we do still need like a number 6 kind of enforcer. So for me, I'd go for Paulina.
Brilliant. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Based on what they do on the pitch right now, and this isn't necessarily monetary value because we know they're both worth a lot at this point, at least Forest value. Morgan Gibbs White is a £100 million player at this point. Who is more valuable to Forest, Morgan Gibbs White or Murillo?
It's always a very difficult question, that, because they're both so good at what they do. It's a bit like trying to compare two Leonardo da Vinci works. The Mona Lisa is different from the Venetian Man. They both do like separate works. But since we are a defensive-based side that like works on the counter-attack, I'm going to lean ever so slightly towards Murillo, but I'm not saying that Morgan Gibbs White is valuable. He absolutely is. Don't get me wrong. But we've seen also the likes of Alanga and etc. providing assists as well. So the team is built around Morgan Gibbs White. There's no doubt about that. He's our talisman. But for me, I'm also going to slightly add Milenkovic in there, because without those two, we'd be back into a naive Premier League team again.
Yeah, best signing in 25 years, right, Greg? That's what you always say with Milenkovic.
Yep.
So for sure. All right, last question. Forest win the Premier League, but then are relegated into the Championship for the next 25 years. You're very familiar with this. Would you take it?
Absolutely not.
I'm with you. I wouldn't do it either.
We like to be in the conversation. I've been watching a lot of Championship football recently because it's been like the Easter holidays and that's on. And I'll just look at that style of football, and I just say to myself, were we really that bad when we like used to be in the Championship ourselves? We've been like sort of stuck there, and I never actually thought I'd ever see a Premier League game, because it was always the relegated clubs going back up again. So it was always debatable whether I'd see a Premier League match ever. But I don't want to go back there, so I'm going to politely say no to that.
Excellent. Well done, buddy.
Okay.
I am so good at lightning rounds.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move ourselves on just a little bit. Don't forget, We would love it if you would like and subscribe. We're on X, we're on TikTok, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're everywhere. Come and join the party, like, subscribe, follow, and leave reviews if you can. Elliot, the Premier League has been a magical revelation, if you like, this year. It's all about the Premier League now after Wembley. We wanted to get to a final. I believed we could win both, but it just wasn't to be. How confident are you going into the final 5 Premier League games that we will secure Champions League football?
Okay. Well, we've been on this rodeo before with the Sabri season trying to get promoted, and then obviously we had that 4-1 Stoke implosion. So I think we've been through that. We've been through an implosion. It's something I never ever want to see again. What you've got to bear in mind, though, with this side of the table is these teams that are fighting for the Champions League places, they're going to very likely win their games. So it is more or less in our hands to get there. I'd rather Champions League football than Europa football, but if we end up like 7th or 8th, etc., I wouldn't be calling for Nuno's head if it doesn't happen. So I think everyone's sort of got to get real there with their meltdowns. So I believe we can, but it's not going to be pretty. The broadcasters are absolutely hating the fact that we might get Champions League football because we've not got the fan base of the Sky 6 cartel. So that might put a spanner in their works, I feel, to try and get Forest out of it. But we're the rebel city. We're the city of rebels. And as I always say, there is absolutely no point of going into a game thinking you're going to lose it. I also feel you should not go into a game thinking, oh, we'll just take a point. What's the point of being in the Premier League if you don't think you can beat your opponent? If you don't think you can beat your opponent, you've got no business being in this league. Go back to the Championship where anyone can beat anybody. We've beaten the likes of Manchester United, Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool, etc. this season and a few seasons before that. All games are winnable, okay? That's why I get so miffed when I hear the term winnable game, because
there it is.
We class it like the likes of like Bournemouth. Oh, I'm looking forward to this one because it's a winnable game. It's Bournemouth. We haven't actually beaten them for years. We've beaten like Liverpool more times than we have Bournemouth and Fulham combined. Now, I know we've beaten them once, but we beat Liverpool twice since promotion. So that's my sort of rant over. All games are winnable. Let's go into these next 5 games, fired up and ready to go. Let's win them.
That's right. I love it. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because it's kind of polarizing sort of question. If you don't make Champions League, is it a disaster of a season? Because I think we've talked about it on our podcast when we did our prediction show. It was like we were going to end up 12th. And I think some people thought that was optimistic. I heard a lot of people say 14th, 15th, potentially. So did you have a predicted place you thought? And so from your perspective, it sounds like the answer is no to this, but do you consider it a disaster if we drop into Europa League? Because as you pointed out, a lot of teams in and around us right now who are vying for that 5th spot are in good form, right?
Yeah, obviously, of course, I did sort of predict myself a lower league position finish. So this season has been a success. There's absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever. So anything else this season is an absolute bonus for me.
For sure.
Yeah, I think we have to have that pragmatic. I keep using the word pragmatic on these podcasts lately. We have to have that grounded point of view that we were just clamoring for any European football. But when you've been in the Champions League places for as long as we have, it would be a capitulation, as you touched on earlier, similar to the Stoke affair, where we, just fell apart. I liken it to the last 2 seasons in the Premier League. Last 2 seasons in the Premier League, we've had to get significant points out of our last 5 games to survive. This year, and we've done it, and we did it. This year, we've got to get significant points out of our last 5 games to get in Champions League, and I believe we're going to do it. Elliot, what one moment, Forest moment, has stood out as your personal highlight from this season in terms of the team or a moment in time, a shot, a goal, a player? What one moment has stood out as your personal highlight from this season?
It was the Manchester City at home game because I was with one of your fellow friends. I was actually with Matt Davis for that game. So as soon as Callum Hudson-Odoi's goal went in, I wasn't expecting it. I thought he'd probably like try and get an assist, but yeah, that goal and the full time and the lovely sunshine was amazing. And a bit of a funny story as well. I turned around to Matt Davis at full time, and I said to him, "I'm going to say this with absolute smugness: all games are winnable." And he sort of laughing his head off there. So yeah, but yeah, the Manchester City game was incredible for me.
That's great. So what about player of the season? This is a difficult one because I think everyone's put in probably an average of about 7 out of 10 virtually every match. All has been phenomenal in certain matches. You've seen Morgan step up and play well. Elliot Anderson has been a revelation. Chris Wood, his goal scoring and conversion rate and all that. So in your mind, who is the player of the season if you could even localize it to one?
Well, since he's not just the signing of the season for us, he's signing of the season in the Premier League. It's got to be Nikola Milenkovic. Everybody else has obviously, of course, state their claim, but he's just turned our sort of defensive unit into just something fantastic. Although Murillo has greatly improved, he won it last season. So every single player, whether it's Matt Sells or Harry Toffolo or Zach Abbott, they've all played their part and they've all played it all brilliantly. But for me, it's got to be Nikola Milenkovic.
I love it. You're on mute, buddy.
I'm not.
I'll take myself off mute. You're not going to get any complaints from me on Nikola Milenkovic. Okay, right. Time is ticking away from us. So I wanted to do this.
Name that grandmother.
So this is my little segment at the end where we ask you some random questions. And so here we go. Marmite, love it or hate it?
Hate it. It's earwax in a jar.
How am I cooking your steak?
Medium to well done.
Favorite cheese?
Just standard Cathedral City cheddar.
Yeah, can't beat it. What's the best sandwich?
A Big Mac.
You're classing a Big Mac as a sandwich? Oh,
sandwich.
I have to have a steward's inquiry on that one. Are we in America? You'd call it possibly call it a sandwich, would you, Richard? No, I don't think
it is. I mean, by its ingredients and the way it's structured, I think he's right. Right, technically, it is a sandwich. I know, but that's what we would refer to it as.
Is Jaffa Cake's a cake or a biscuit? Is always that debate. If I had to change it, it'd be sort of a prawn mayonnaise sandwich. But
listen,
very nice.
The rules are on the Talking Reds that you can do whatever you want. Basically, if you want to call it, say a Big Mac is your answer, then we'll have a fucking Big Mac. It's not a problem. That's the rule.
I want. Does that mean I can take my trousers off? Or
you can do that if you want to wave them out of your head. Listen, we've had risque moments on this podcast aplenty in the past. Just ask Paul Morley. Right, last question. What are your grandmother's names?
Eileen and Alice.
Eileen and listen, two absolutely fantastic grandmother names. Again, thank you very much. We salute grandmothers and indeed grandparents all around the world, of course. Okay, right. That brings us to the end of this episode. It's been a thriller. Elliot, I have to ask you, have you got any more facts, figures, fun things that you can share with us before we depart?
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm a huge sort of fact nerd, and I always just scan the internet for just very silly stories. And Richard, I've been torturing you on Twitter with all this
not torture
weird information. Yeah, so if you want to follow me on Twitter, my signal's there. Shall I give you one silly story and then just a tiny random fact at the end?
Go for it.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, my first story is basically about the best protest placard that you'll ever see in your life. So this woman called Jill White in 2022. She lives in Somerset, and her daughter's in a wheelchair. and the road where she's supposed to go to the shops, the council let the hedge get just completely overgrown, so she couldn't get a wheelchair down it. In fact, if you look at this road, nobody can get to it, even in a wheelchair. So she kept ringing the council and saying, can you please take down this hedge for us? Got a person in a wheelchair, we can't get to the shops. Council was doing absolutely nothing for it. So she decided to do a protest by the road completely naked. So she was doing a naked protest, and she did the best placard that I've probably ever heard in my life. The placard read, "I've trimmed my bush, now highways trim yours."
Oh my goodness, that's incredible.
They got it down, yeah. So if you look it up, Jill,
it worked, yeah. They came and trimmed,
yeah. So these are the sort of like random stories that I sort of scan.
And there's a picture of this lady in the paper with her placard, is there?
Yeah, but she's covered up. So.
Oh well, I was going to say, I thought all of our watchers, listeners, and everyone else would be frantically heading over to Google to try and find that image to have a look at.
There's another thing to Google as well. So my very little fact. Yeah, if you just follow me on there or go to Red Side of the Trent, Slept on It Thoughts, I'm always doing a little fact in there to bring everyone back in the room, basically. There's another thing I want you to Google. The world's largest carpet museum looks like a giant roll of carpet.
Oh my gosh.
Are you doing that now, Craig? Yeah, I'm serious. If you look at the museum itself, it looks like a giant roll of carpet.
That's
fun facts aplenty. Absolutely fantastic. We play Brentford tomorrow night under the lights in the first of 5 really crucial games. 7:30 kickoff. With I think a few tickets have come available. So if you're looking for a ticket for tomorrow, I can't get to the match. Otherwise, I'd be there. And I know, Elliot, you had a spare and someone's picked that up off you now as well. But just quickly before we let you go, what you're saying on tomorrow night's score prediction for Brentford, Elliot?
I'm really not very good at score predictions because it's Nottingham Forest. It could be anything. But I just really want to win. Obviously, of course, a few of us on Twitter called Brentford the XG weirdos. And Thomas Frank looks like the type of guy that snogs his own mirror. But I just really hope we win that game. But bear in mind that we've yet to beat them at the City Ground since promotion. But yeah, let's go for it. I'm going to sort of pick up a 2-1 win. Just
sounds good.
Like it.
So yeah, that's my prediction for tomorrow.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Elliot, for being with us for the One With. It's been really great to have you. Richard Spray, going to say goodbye to you over in Oklahoma. Anything to close with, Richard?
Yeah, I just he's a very humble guy, and but he's also a really good guy. I think whenever we go through life, one thing you hope to be referred to as just a good person, right? And so Elliot is firmly at the top of that list. So he's done a lot of nice things for others. I love his facts. Honestly, Greg, work is a real slog for me right now, and it can be for everyone. But to have Elliot's humor and kindness and just charity and everything is really important. And you don't want to, he would never promote that about himself because he's just too good of a person, as I said, and too humble of a human being, but he's definitely done that. I know Chris and I have talked about it. He's a huge fan of yours, and he really appreciates you. He's told me that, in private conversations. So just want to applaud you for just being a good man. And with all your experiences and everything you talked about earlier, choosing to find ways to brighten other people's lives and through those amazing facts, because it is not a torture. It actually makes my day better to get those. I can't wait to see those in my my DMs through X. So keep it coming, mate. I love it. So, and we really appreciate you enormously, and thank you for coming on with us. So we're glad to call you a Talking Reds friend, right? Just like Red Side of the Trent and Forest all over can say that. We can hopefully gladly say that now too, because we appreciate you enormously.
Awesome.
That's very kind.
You're welcome.
Danscape likes your little story about a placard. He says, I might try that trick with getting Willy Bolly on the pitch. I've shown my Willy. Now you show yours. No, Danscape. I didn't know you had. I didn't know you had it in you. Listen, guys, the time is up. What I want to say to you is that I echo everything Richard said. Elliot, you're a legend. You assisted me with an extra ticket for Wembley, and you didn't have to. And it, really meant a lot. And I thank you so much for that. It was great because it meant I could go as a family. And so you are a little legend. Forest play Brentford. Let's change it. It's not on the piss with Nuno. It's on the lime and sodas with Nuno. Let's do it.
Come join Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.